I mean, look at you crawling in there like I crawl in here. You're fucking giddy right now.
It's kind of fun, man.
You're like a kid in a candy store.
I feel like a little kid when I do that. I kind of like it.
We just got to get you a new chair for every podcast now.
I know. Well, now I have like this big ass computer here, and then it kind of like blocks part of your face, which is nice. I wish it'd block your whole face.
I can't even see your mouth moving right now. This is awesome.
Can you really not see my mouth right now?
I mean, if I go this way a little bit. There we go.
Should I just go like this so you can see just right off the side?
It's like I'm listening to a podcast now.
I know. Well, I had to get rid of the other chair because it's sitting right over here. But just too much fucking noise all the time. It's getting annoying. And I got this chair for like $60.
It was drowning out our voices.
That was the other chair? Yeah, it kind of was.
We don't have 3 people on this podcast. It's 2.
Yeah.
No other noises.
Ralphie's kind of on it sometimes.
He's probably in this right now.
I know. Well, sometimes he fucking moves and it shakes the camera a little bit. But I'm pretty sure like 90% of our listeners listen through just audio anyway.
Yeah.
Because we're only getting, I don't know, between like 10 and 40.
So yeah, mid-20s.
Yeah, I think the last one, I don't know, we didn't post a trailer for like a week.
Yeah.
Ralphie, chill out, man. Yeah, we took forever to post the trailer. Dude, that content shit is fucking hard when you have a real job too.
All right, we got shit going on.
I'd love to just have a fake job like this.
That'd be amazing.
Be a lot of time for content, but
he almost pulled that fucking camera down.
Yeah, I know.
Should we start a GoFundMe?
Yeah, and we should probably also put Ralphie in this fucking crate. But I already sat down and climbed in here, and I'm not climbing out. So
we'll wait till I have to stop the cameras.
Yeah, probably. So did you see? Is last week? I think it was last week. Maybe the week before. There's a high school football game on TV, and it was IMG, which is like a big kind of like sports school. They have like a baseball and football team. They probably have. I think they have basketball too. I think they
got a lot of sports.
They probably almost have every sport. And essentially, it's like your school time revolves around your field time or your practice time, and so it's pretty much like college. But
like
they're prepping
prep
these kids. Yeah, so it's like the best kids in the country are pretty much going to like these schools, and they played this other school called Sycamore. No one had heard of it. And it turns out this is basically like a made-up online charter school in Ohio. And they pulled up, I'll put a picture of the of their address, or what their address actually is, on the fucking image up here. Is literally a house. Their address that they put in for the school is a house. And
what?
Their coach has a warrant out for his arrest. I don't know what he did, but he's got a warrant out for his arrest. Apparently, he promised like these kids that if they went to this school, they're going to get all these college recruitments and all this. And they lied to ESPN about how many Division I recruits they had. Dude, they got beat 58-0.
I mean, we're going to have to just put the camera on my face.
How does ESPN not vet these people and do any kind of background check before you have these schools come on national television?
Well, so you kept sending me and Forrest a bunch of memes about that.
Yeah.
And, like, I still had no idea what was going on. But I saw this one meme where it was like, imagine, because weren't all those kids, fucking adults, like, in their upper 20s, younger 30s?
No, so they had some kids who were high school age, but they had, I think it was like half their team was like 20 or 21. They were like junior college guys.
Or is that what it was? I just remember seeing something like, that's what it was. Like, imagine being, 21 years old and being hit like this by a 16-year-old kid, and the dude was just getting fucking rocked.
Yeah.
By
these
IGM guys, yeah.
And IMG, yeah. So some of the players on the team, they made a TikTok, and it was like, when you beat a bunch of 20-year-olds or 21-year-olds 58-0, and it was just all them like dancing at practice. Shit was hilarious. So many good memes about that though.
So many. What's the one you sent us? The first one, I had to Google it because I had no idea what this was. Was it like Cam Newton just signed with?
Oh yeah, after he got cut, it was like Cam Newton signs with Sycamore.
But like, what? I mean, they got to do like a 30 for 30 on this.
I know. Dude, there will be 100%. Or there's going to be a Netflix documentary.
Yes. I think the coach is going to go to prison, though.
Probably.
Maybe for this and for
whatever else he's done.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's considered fraud with what he did. or
'Cause, like, what did-
there's maybe some other law. I don't know.
So did they do you know, like, did they reach out to ESPN and say, hey, we want to be like, how did all of this play out?
So they reached out to ESPN and told them they had, I don't know if they said they had like 6 or 7 like Division I commits or something like that, or recruits, whatever it is, and they wanted to get on like a national TV game, and they're like, okay, yeah.
So they put this team together. How long ago?
I don't know, to
Like,
be honest with you.
It sounds like it's a very recent thing. Like, they just threw this together.
This had to be their first year.
Right. And then they reach out to IMG and they say, hey, play us on national television. Like, this is fucking bizarre.
It's crazy. I'm
like,
trying
this
to
is
look
something that
up.
would happen in a movie.
So here, this is an article. It's a complete timeline on how Bishop Sycamore fooled ESPN. So, okay, in fall of 2018. Wow, so this started 3 years ago.
Oh, my
So,
God.
Roy Johnson, who would eventually become Bishop Sycamore, the head coach, starts an online charter school called Christians of Faith Academy, which is funny. My high school in Colorado is Faith Christian Academy, so that's actually hilarious.
This guy did his research.
Yeah. The school has an identical goal as Bishop Sycamore and would go on to have
Zero
helping
confidence.
at-risk youth, whatever. After screening by state officials, it was impossible to determine whether classes were actually taking place, and the school's license was eventually revoked. And then this guy was investigated for fraud. In 2019,
So that's probably what the warrant was.
yeah, so in 2019, Youth Build Centurions is founded in Columbus, Ohio, a rebranding of Christians of Faith Academy. It was an online charter school with a football team, which served as its public face. The school would later rebrand again, this time as Bishop Sycamore.
Oh, my God.
And this is 2019. And it said, a 2020 article by The Independent notes that Bishop Sycamore went 5-6 in its first season against a schedule that only features one Ohio school, adding that the school was not a member of the Ohio State Athletic Association and has been a lightning rod for controversy in the local community.
So they played one team 11 times?
Apparently.
Or they just made up that record?
Or they made up the record and then they played that one team once. And then it said, and on the 23rd of September 2019, the Youth Build Centurions have a match canceled when a school in West Virginia learns they have numerous players on the roster over the age of 18. Crazy. September 4th of 2020. Bishop Sycamore plays its first recorded football game on Max Preps, losing 35-0 to a non-conference opponent. Ahead of the game, athletic director Dave Brown speaks to The Independent about his approach to building the team, which curiously notes that he doesn't want players or coaches to look up information about the team online. I try to encourage our athletes and our coaching staff to stay off the internet, Brown says, a curious concept considering Bishop Sycamore is an online school.
Wait, what the fuck? So this guy gets together a bunch of, 18-plus football players. If you've played it down of football and you are over a high school age, like, I'm not going to sit here and say I'd go be a star high school football player right now, but, like, you get a bunch of guys that I played football with, we were nothing special. We could at least hold our own against a high school team right now.
Yeah. 100%.
Like, who the fuck did he get? Like, where did he find these players?
I know. Dude, like, you and me and Forrest, we could play offensive line in high school right now.
Yeah.
And go push kids around that are like, 250.
Right.
260.
We wouldn't be all-star linemen, but we could hold our own.
Yeah. But when you get a team like, IMG, when they got receivers, they got receivers going to Bama and shit like that. But if we were to just go play a random high school football team.
This first team that they just played, the one that you read, they didn't sound like anything special.
No.
They got fucking smoked.
So October 16th, 2020, Bishop Sycamore played IMG Academy for the first time. And they lost 56-6, finishing the 2020 season with an 0-6 record. Their closest game being a 37-14 loss. And then they met IMG Academy in less than a year on ESPN. So then April 2021, they spin It says Bishop Sycamore spins up its online hype machine through a website in which has since been shut down, showing it's closed for maintenance. In it, nothing mentioned of educational goals, of support for students. Instead, the only information available is a series of blog posts detailing upcoming private workouts for college teams, how the school recommends players create highlight clips to be noticed. Wow. Then in August, they opened their season against Archbishop Hoban, and they lost 38-0. Then they play the Roe Sox in Pennsylvania, lost 19-7. And then on August 29th, they played at Bishop Sycamore plays IMG Academy on ESPN. The school is clearly outmatched and unable to keep up. During the game, the announced team expresses its disgust in the situation. So IMG, I think, or the announcers, I don't know. They expressed disgust at the situation, insulting the network.
ESPN.
Insinuating the network had been promised the school had numerous football players with D1 athletes, but clearly based on the game, they do not. Furthermore, there are questions about the safety of the players on the field against the bigger and stronger and more skilled IMG.
Well, so I heard something about how ESPN, the reason they're continuing to talk about them and like blast Bishop Sycamore is because that made ESPN look really stupid. So now they're just trying to blast this, and I think trying to take control of the situation and like make sure that they don't lose their reputation or get a bad rep because of what happened.
Yeah. So on August 31st, they fired their head coach, who started everything in 2018. The athletic director, Andre Peterson, fired back at claims saying he was running a scam because he told USA Today Sports, in quotes, "I'm not gaining anything financially from doing this." Turns out, on August 30th, there was an active GoFundMe for Bishop Sycamore trying to raise $20,000.
How much did they raise?
$140. Also, that was taken down on August 31st. So 2 days after they play, they're under fire. People are saying it's a scam, all the stuff. 2 days later, the GoFundMe gets shut down. Then their website gets shut down 2 days later. And it said it's closed for maintenance. And then the school began backing out of scheduled games. Other schools started backing out of games against Bishop Sycamore.
Jesus
that is insane.
Fucking Christ.
And there is absolutely money to be made there.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you can sell tickets to games, you're making money through that. Like high school, you have to pay money to get into the games unless you're a student.
And concessions.
Concessions, all that kind of stuff. And also, like, if you do happen to get any players that go to a Division I university or maybe they go to a junior college in D1, you can claim them as D1 players from your high school. You're going to get players that want to go play there.
Jesus Christ.
So there was a lot of money to be made, especially if you're at an online charter school or whatever, you're paying tuition to go there.
Right.
So there's a lot of money to be made in that. That is insane.
Okay, so this, from what I understand, this wasn't even a school.
No.
Why the fuck is there an athletic director?
I don't know. They only have a football team.
That's
coach, the easiest AD job in the world.
Right.
You only are directing a football team. You have nothing else to do.
This coach hires an athletic director, and then the athletic director turns around and fires him.
That's crazy.
This is fucking absurd. They need to make a movie out of this.
Dude, it either has to be like a movie or like a docu-series type thing.
Yes.
That's fucking amazing.
I mean, that could be a fucking comedy movie right there. Put Adam Sandler in there.
I know. Dude, as I'm opening up this Zen, I feel like we got to talk about this. We're on the 3 milligrams right now. We were on the 6 milligrams of Zen. I don't notice a difference at all because I don't really think that Zen has affected me in a long time. I just like the taste now.
And it's the oral fixation.
It is having something in your mouth. That's what she said. I'm going to have to move to gum, I think, during October.
That's what I'm going to do.
Have we even talked about Sober October on the podcast?
I don't think so. Because we were both kind of on the fence.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it, actually, but we're going to cut out Zen, too. At least I for sure am.
I'm cutting out Zen.
Yeah. So my mom actually had the idea of going down to the 3 milligrams, so I don't go from, like, doing a lot of the 6 milligram Zens every day to doing nothing, because then we actually might have a little bit of withdrawals there. So I'm easing them down, and then after this week, I'm gonna try to cut down on my overall daily consumption, and just slowly kind of get myself ready so that once we hit October 1st, we're chilling.
Mm-hmm.
It is gonna kind of suck though, chewing gum with a mask on. I hate doing that, but
Yeah,
I might try to see if I can just go with nothing in my mouth, but we'll see.
we'll see. Well, so because my parents are gonna come out in October,
They can't. They're not doing November.
they've been trying to come out for the last however many months,
Yeah.
and I mean they're fucking busy. They have literally something scheduled every single weekend, and I'd rather have them come out in October and have that one weekend where I do drink with them,
Yeah.
and then and here's
That's
how I
fair.
look at it. I want to go sober October because there are certain substances that I feel like I'm getting out of control with.
Just say weed.
Nicotine and marijuana are
Yeah.
the two big ones.
Yeah.
Caffeine is another one. I might just use that as like a weaning down
Mm-hmm.
period. I don't have an issue with alcohol. I cut it
Yeah.
out for 3 months. I'm going to cut it out for at least 3 more months for bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
I can say no to alcohol and like that's it.
Yeah.
I have weaned down on marijuana, but even last weekend, like Sunday night, I fucking got stupid high.
Yeah.
And it's just that kind of triggered it again where I was like, okay, then I took edibles the next night. I'm probably going to take edibles tonight.
Yeah.
Where it's just like it's not taking over, but I want to prove to myself I can go an extended period of time without it.
Yeah. I think for me, part of it is like challenging the stories that I've told myself. For example, like the main one being when I'm really stressed out after a long day and I just want to relax, that like it helps me kind of shut down and not work. Right. And weed does that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like, dude, I don't need weed to calm down, and I know that, right? But flipping the
excuse.
script and stopping doing that for a while can help you change that story you tell yourself, and then be something that you decide to kind of do in moderation after that, or just go back to what you were doing. If you're like, yeah, you know what, it wasn't a problem at all. So
Mhm.
maybe I was reading too much into it or overthinking it. Or you decide like, yeah, you know what, my life is better totally without this or with significantly less of it. But I think for me, a lot of it too is just going through periods of like self-denial, I think is super beneficial, just in the sense that you have to force yourself to use other coping mechanisms, or even just like picking up different hobbies, right? Because like at the end of the night, if it's like, I have a 10-hour day from 6 to 4, and maybe I had a couple hours of work out in there, I'm probably not going to want to come home and work, right? But if I don't smoke weed and just chill and like watch TV or something, I'm probably going to want to do something else, right? So maybe I like play with Ralphie a little bit more, or take more walks with Ralphie, or whatever. Maybe take that time to like create more content, but that kind of depends on where my energy's at. But I'm interested to see in how the month goes. I'm kind of excited for it, to be honest.
I am too. Well, so I was actually reading something that talked about, it was this study that came out where it was something about if you decrease your sugar by like 40%, you're going to lose weight. And it's like, yes, on paper that stuff looks great, but when and we just talked about you can't have an addiction to sugar.
Yeah.
But when you have an addiction to something, if you just cut it out and don't fill that with something else, or if you do fill it with something else, like what are you filling that void with? Is it going to be something that's beneficial, or is it going to be another thing that's harmful?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that like, okay, cut out the marijuana. We use it as a way to turn our brains off and relax.
Mm-hmm.
By cutting it out now, it'll force us to, what else can we do to turn our brains off and relax? And then we add that to our arsenal, where it's not like I'm going to say I'm never going to smoke weed again or never take an edible.
For sure.
But like, yeah, I have noticed in the last 3 weeks, I have decreased my marijuana consumption and I feel more clear.
Yeah. I
Like-
think, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say there's no like fogginess in the
Yeah.
morning.
Mm-hmm. I think for me, something that I've told myself was that like, oh, but just makes it so much easier to sleep. So, and that's true, but I think sometimes what that might be doing is masking the fact that like I'm probably looking at screens too late in the evening, right? I don't really have like a wind down routine, which sounds funny as like to care about something like that. It's actually super important.
Super important.
You have this, there's this thing in psychology called classical conditioning. So the more you see something, like I'll give an example. My former writing mentor, he would always, every time he'd come home from like bars and going out, he would post a picture of this like big teddy bear that was in the building that he lived in. There was like a store, you know, on the bottom floor. And he'd take a picture and he'd be like, hey, you know, Reginald is just chilling tonight. So you name this teddy bear Reginald. And everyone, you know, people that followed him would start posting pictures of like random teddy bears and be like, oh, what's Reggie doing in Ohio? And they'd be like, you know, they're in Ohio and they see this big ass teddy bear. So people now that follow him, every time they would see a big ass teddy bear, they think of him. So they associate big ass fucking teddy bears with John Romanello, right? And so you can use that to your advantage in other ways. So an example would be if at the end of every day you have a gratitude list of like 3 things you write down you're grateful for, and then you plan your next day. You write out, okay, what do you have to do? What's your schedule like? And then you close that planner and you're like, all right, it's time to shut off. And that wind down routine can help you get into your parasympathetic nervous system and help you slowly unwind and actually get better sleep. And that's something that I did previously that I actually stopped doing over quarantine. And when I got back, that's when I started using cannabis a little bit more, helped me fall asleep. But really, I was out of the habit of having a wind down routine. And that's a lot harder when you have, if you have a significant other that lives with you, or, you know, Jessie stays with me a lot, or I stay with her sometimes. And it's hard when there's another person in the mix, let alone if you have kids. I mean, that makes it way harder.
Good luck.
Yeah. So, I mean, those things are difficult. But, you know, I'm not going to give advice to parents on that because I can't understand that responsibility yet. There's nothing that I think is more funny than when you got guys that are like 22, 25 telling these guys that are like, you know, mothers and fathers that like their morning routine is so important. Like shut the fuck up, man.
You don't know what it's like to have kids.
Yeah. And we don't either. And that's why I don't know. I just think that shit's funny.
Stay in our scope of practice.
So there's a study I saw that I thought was pretty interesting. And this is not a 1, 2, 3 podcast. I didn't really think this was worth a study breakdown, but it was really interesting. Essentially, they were looking at sleep and how high intensity interval training can combat like shitty sleep. So sleep loss reduces glucose tolerance with concomitant reductions. Concomitant, I'm going to say that again. So basically, sleep restriction is going to reduce your glucose tolerance, so you'll be a little bit more insulin resistant. And it also can reduce mitochondrial function and sarcoplasmic protein synthesis. So sleep loss also leads to reduction in the amplitude of skin temperature and diurnal rhythms, which I believe is like when you're taking a shit and piss and stuff like that. So what's interesting is these effects were not observed when you were sleep deprived and exercising at least 3 times a week. So what they did was they had 3 groups. They had one group that got 8 hours of time in bed, and there was another group that got 4 hours of time in bed. So those are the first 2 groups. And
How
they
long
noticed,
was the study?
I don't know. So that's another reason why I didn't want to use it for a 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I'm not. Oh, it was 5 days. So 5 days of sleep restriction. And the people with the 4 hours of time in bed were the ones who saw the glucose tolerance go down, mitochondrial function go down, and then the diurnal rhythms were also out of whack. So if you were sleep restricted plus exercising 3 times a week, and they used high intensity interval training, they found that all of those negative aspects of sleep deprivation were gone or like minimalized, which is pretty insane. And I don't really know if that necessarily like means anything, because you'll still feel like shit if you're like only in bed for 4 hours. But that's pretty unbelievable. I don't like HIIT training enough to even try to do that anyway.
I think I interrupted you and you never said what the third group did.
The third group was 4 hours of sleep plus HIIT training.
Okay.
So there's 8 hours time in bed, 4 hours time in bed, 4 hours time in bed, plus the 3 time a week HIIT training.
So, and here's what I'm just going to say where my thoughts going. 5 days isn't enough time to like really see the long-term effects of it.
For sure.
But I don't know. You could argue that with the high intensity interval training, you're able to get into a deeper sleep. So you're able to maximize the 4 hours of sleep more than someone who didn't.
I will tell you something. Since I've been finishing my workouts with like the ski erg, I'll just do like, you know, a couple like 150, 200 meter sprints on that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I do notice that my sleep has gotten a little bit better when I've just kind of exhausted myself a little bit at the end of my sessions, because it's not so long that I'm like, this is taking too much fucking time. And it's not so much of that where I feel exhausted, like I'm not recovering. It's just enough to really get my heart rate up really intense for, you know, like 5 minutes. And then I'm kind of good after that.
Yep.
I don't think I'm going to do that today after my workout, because I have heavy squats, tempo bench, which isn't that bad. But then I have Hatfield split squats, which are absolutely fucking brutal.
Those suck.
It's basically you just have you have a safety bar on your shoulders and your hands are up on the squat rack for balance. And you can do a lot more weight than you can with Bulgarian split squats, but you don't have to use as many like stabilizers and things like that, but you could do a lot more weight, and they're fucking hard.
You had me do those for probably like 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, they're amazing, but they like, it's a love-hate thing for sure. And then I get to finish off with some bro shit. I got some chest flies and some arms.
Let's go. How's your training been overall?
It's good, man. I'm doing a lot more volume with my upper body, like especially my arms. And
because you're more on a power building program right now.
Yeah, it's kind of split down the middle, with my focus being strength and hypertrophy. I felt like for a while I was feeling like I didn't want to do straight powerlifting right now. I just wasn't what I was excited for. And in my mind, I was like, well, shit, I've been talking about this for a while now. And, you know, people that are on the podcast listening about, you know, I've had a handful of people ask me, like, when's your next meet? When are you competing? I'm like, I don't know yet, man. Like, I don't have the itch like I did right after I competed.
Did you feel like burnout was kind of coming in, or?
A little bit, yeah. But honestly, like I'm loving my training right now. And I feel like since I've gotten kind of through the beginning of this cut, you can kind of see where you put on some muscle and stuff. And like to see my chest being more full than it's ever been is like really exciting. So I'm going to keep leaning out. And, you know, I got some other stuff with, you know, whenever I might have like a potential move coming up in like March. I don't really know yet. Still, I'll be in the city. I'm not like moving away, but like, you know, the same neighborhood too. But kind of just seeing how that plays out. So I'll either compete in maybe like February or March, April time frame, probably more like April time frame. So it just kind of depends on what's going on in my personal life, but still getting stronger. But honestly, most of what's exciting me right now is the physique side of things.
Bodybuilding.
Yeah, I'm leaning out. I'm looking bigger. Don't think I'm ready for bodybuilding quite yet, but we're getting there, man. So that's exciting. But what about you? How's your training?
So I actually took yesterday was my first workout since 5 days ago. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, in 4 days. So I took 4 days off, got back in. I was back in Minnesota, but I knew I wasn't going to be working out. So I bumped up my intensity the week leading up to that.
Mm-hmm.
And subtle brag, 315 back squat for 30 reps. If you want to fucking dance around death, find your 30 rep max squat.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to rep 18 and I wanted to rack it. And I was like, just one more, quit tomorrow. One more.
Yeah.
One more. Got to 30, almost passed out, racked the bar forward.
Did the video stop right when you finished the 30th rep, or did they film it
I didn't video that one.
Oh, you videoed the 25?
I videoed the 25 the week before.
Because you tried it the first time and got 25?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
And then 30. So I actually Googled it. I was like, just out of curiosity, what was the most reps for 315 on a back squat?
Mm.
And I saw 35, and that was the highest. And I was thinking, I was like, well, take fucking Brian Shaw or something. 315 is toy weight for him.
They do that for like fucking 50.
But then someone mentioned, but there's the cardio aspect to it.
There is.
So I'm curious. I'm like, if I'm close to the most I've seen on the internet, I kind of want to try it again.
Mm-hmm.
But this week's kind of like getting back into the swing of things. I ate and drank like an asshole last weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of taking this week of like getting back into the swing of things.
Yeah.
Calories are going to be super low this week just because I'm fluffy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's again, a lot of water weight.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to just get back to normal
Mm-hmm.
and then get back to training program.
Yeah.
But
I just thought about this because you were saying, like, you know, you want to do if no one else has done more than that, and like, you know, seeing what's on the internet and like wanting to try things. I think that shit's really fun. And it's funny because we posted that thing on our TikTok of you treating 135 on a barbell. So he had a 45-pound plate on each barbell, and he's pressing them like they're fucking dumbbells. And that's some shit you see like fucking Bradley Martin doing, or like Larry Wheels, right? And it was fucking nuts. And we posted that on our TikTok, and that was like one of our least viewed TikToks.
mm-hmm.
And it kind of reminds me that when we do things for views or for virality and it doesn't go viral or it doesn't get the views we wanted, then it's like, okay, well, we just did something specifically for clout and didn't get it. And it kind of reminds me of the fact that if we just create content and do work that we're proud of, that we really like, we have fun creating it, and then we really appreciate the end, the product of what we created, that even if no one sees it, at least we have the work to be proud of.
Right.
Where otherwise we're like, okay, we did something cool for clout, we didn't get any. However, you do still get the satisfaction of being able to do something really fucking cool.
Yeah.
I don't get any satisfaction out of that. You do. I think it's
do.
fucking cool. You got to feel good because you did it.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. Just move the
Knock
table.
you over. Well, so, and that was the thing, like, and I always tell my clients, and we preach this on the podcast, like, there's no need to go balls to the wall like that very often.
No.
I am definitely an anomaly. I know my recovery is a lot better than the majority of people.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's one of those things that I do have these lofty goals of getting my pro card.
Mm-hmm.
I need to train smart. And don't get me wrong, there is the mental aspect of training. That's kind of how I looked at the 30 rep squat, was like, you know, this is one set of 30 reps. I have not done this ever. I've never tested what my true max repetitions are on
Mhm.
squats. And like I said, I wanted to stop at 18. I thought maybe 20 would have been RPE, send it.
Mm-hmm.
I got 12 more reps. So like now I know what true failure is. There was no coming down for rep 31.
Yeah. So
Like-
at least, you know, now you're going to have a better idea of what your reps in reserve are.
Exactly.
Granted, it can be a little misleading with higher reps versus lower reps, because
Yes.
the higher your reps are, the more difficult it is to gauge how many you have left in you.
Right. But it's just one of those things that it's like, you know, once in a blue moon, it is nice to train like that, just to, one, to see what you're capable of, and two, there is the mental aspect of training.
Yeah. So this week, we're recording this on a Wednesday. We're hoping to get this out by Saturday. Emphasis on hoping. That's a goal. And because we're going to have our NFL picks, we are doing those again this year. We're going to post it on Instagram because we don't know if all these podcasts are going to get out on time, and people are going to inevitably say, oh, well, you guys posted this after week 1. So if that's you, fuck right off. We're going to check our Instagram. But I do feel like week 1 of the NFL deserves a fucking sound from our soundboard. Nope, not that one.
I mean, really? I'll give you like 15 seconds here.
You can't fucking reach that.
I'll start talking.
It's fucking music to my ears, dude.
Did you figure out how to put that on there?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to bring the recording?
This is playing right now. Yeah, this is a podcast. Bear down. I'll give you a little skull. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I
I'll
feel
take
like
this.
it just keeps it even. Should we play? You know what I just thought of? Should we fucking play the at least the beginning of the old the old never played intro?
Do we have that on here?
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
play it. All right.
I mean, fucking buttons.
We were fucking drunk when we did this, and also we had just listened to a Chris D'Elia podcast, so we were like, fucking, we were literally like both fucking talking like Crystalia. And it's like he has this very distinct way of speaking. But anyway, we'll just play it. But just keep in mind we're both hammered and speaking like Crystalia. So take that for
Whatever it's worth.
Oops. Oh, wrong one. That's also a Crystalia thing. Is it this one? Nope. Okay, here we go. I've fucked that up about 4 times. Here we go. Sipping on Zin and juice.
So,
Got
did
my
you just
mind
record
on my
that?
money and the pussy on my mind.
Did you just record
See
that
how
on
I
there?
just fucking switch that out? That's our fucking intro. We got this in here too, because you fucking ran your mouth. And now this is a fucking intro, dude.
Let's
you fucked the intro up.
Let's
Yes,
go.
I got the perfect
I'm
fucking intro and
fucking
Zach
getting
fucked
mad.
it up, dude. You
I'm
fucked
getting
up the
fucking
intro.
mad.
You fucked it up.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was not good. And if you were listening to that on the audio, you weren't watching on YouTube, but we didn't speak a word just then. That was a full recording. So anything where you hear us talking over it,
Not us.
Not us. No, we played that on my computer and just put it loud enough so the speakers or the microphones could pick it up. And then we just ran our mouths into the mic.
We suck.
Yeah, our new intro is Zin and Juice.
Not in October, though.
Yeah, not in October, but we are going to copyright that.
Yup.
So, oh shit, fantasy football. No, we got to do our picks first. I'm everywhere.
That's all right. Picks first.
All right.
We make the rules.
Yeah. All right. So, tomorrow night, Thursday night, we got Cowboys and Buccaneers.
Buccaneers.
Seahawks, Colts.
Seahawks.
Jaguars, Texans.
I'm going to go Jags. Wait, is Trevor Lawrence starting? I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to go Jags.
They traded Minshew.
I saw that.
Who'd they trade him to again?
I don't know.
I do have an opinion on that, though. They took reps away from Trevor Lawrence with a starting offense
Mm-hmm.
to have him compete with a guy who they traded for a 7th round pick, a guy who was their first overall overall pick in the first round. To me, if you have a guy that you just drafted in the first round and the first pick, and you knew you wanted him to start as your quarterback, why are you taking reps away from him?
Right.
But anyway, that's a conversation for another time. Eagles, Falcons, Chargers, Washington,
Chargers.
Bills, Steelers,
Bills.
49ers, Lions.
49ers.
It's a tough one, huh?
That was
Vikings, Bengals,
Vikings.
Jets, Panthers,
Panthers.
Cardinals, Titans,
Titans.
Browns, Chiefs,
Chiefs.
Dolphins, Patriots,
What?
Dolphins,
You
Patriots.
said Daltons.
Did I?
Yeah.
Shows where my mind's at.
Patriots.
Wow. Broncos, Giants. It's a tough one.
Broncos.
They're both bad.
Yeah.
Broncos
Teddy Two
defense.
Gloves.
Broncos defense is good.
Teddy Two Gloves.
Yeah. Packers, Saints.
Saints. Fuck the Packers.
Bears, Rams.
Ooh.
That's not hard. That is not hard.
Rams.
Yeah, they're favored by like 7.
I know, but I don't want to upset you.
That's not there. Ravens and Raiders.
Raiders.
I think that'll be a good one, though.
I think that'll be a good one. Monday Night Football.
All right, so
I got them pulled up here. I can read them to you.
all right,
Where are we? Aha, there we are. Cowboys, Bucks.
Bucks,
Seahawks, Colts.
Seahawks,
Jaguars, Texans.
Jaguars,
Eagles, Falcons.
Falcons,
Chargers, Washington.
Chargers, but I think it'll be close.
Steelers, Bills.
Bills,
49ers, Lions.
49ers,
Vikings, Bengals.
Vikings,
Jets, Panthers.
Panthers, but I think it's going to be a decent game.
I think that's going to be a pretty close game, too.
Yeah.
Cardinals, Titans.
Titans, and I'm actually really interested to see how the Cardinals look because they were a fringe playoff team last year, and I think they will be again this year.
But they've lost some.
They lost their way out of the playoffs last year, and the Bears lost their way into it. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how they do this year. That's a team to keep an eye on.
Yes. Browns, Chiefs.
Chiefs, but I think the Browns are going to play 'em
Play
well.
closer.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
they're a good team.
Dolphins, Patriots.
Dolphins, but I think the Patriots, if Mac Jones plays decent, they'll be good because they have a good defense. I don't know how their offensive line is, but they have a good defense.
Broncos, Giants.
Broncos because their defense.
Saquon's back, too.
Yeah.
Packers, Saints.
I'm going to take the Packers mostly because, and I think Jameis Winston he looked good in preseason, in camp and all that, but I just think the Packers are a better overall team.
Would you say that if they didn't have Rodgers?
No.
Better quarterback.
Well, there's that. They also have a good defense. But if you have a good defense and you can't fucking score points,
Doesn't matter.
like look at the Bears.
Yep.
So,
Bears, Rams.
Rams,
Ravens, Raiders.
Ravens,
We're going to have to go back and make that into our fucking chart.
for sure. Yeah, I honestly kind of hate that we did that right now because we should have. I'm glad we did, but also I really wanted to write those down first, and now I feel like no, I mean I know all my teams I picked.
I do too.
All right, well then we'll be fine.
And we have it recorded.
Yeah, but I just don't want to fucking listen back through this for that. Mostly because I'm lazy, but I also want to.
Well, I'll do it when I edit the audio.
Yeah, I want to post those tonight because or tomorrow early in the afternoon, just because the Thursday night game is tomorrow.
Yeah.
So should we get into some questions?
Well, hold on. Fantasy football.
Oh shit, our fantasy teams. How many leagues are you in this year? 2?
1, maybe 2 if we end up drafting tonight.
Okay. Are you supposed to have a draft?
It was one of those. This is a league that I've been doing since high school.
Yeah.
And the commissioner, I think he has a gambling issue. And he wanted to back out last year, and we convinced him to stay in.
Mm-hmm.
But then this year he texted us like last week, and he's like, yeah, guys, if you want to do it, I passed off commissioner to Mydra and Condon, figure out the draft and draft. He's like, I'm out. Nothing you can do. Left the group chat right as soon as he sent it, and no one said anything. And then last night, one of my buddies texted, and he's like, hey, so we doing this now? And no one could do it last night except for like 2 guys, and those 2 guys can't do it tonight. So probably only going to be in 1.
Okay.
But it's tough. I'm in a 14-team league. Get to like round 6 and 7 when you're still drafting starters, you're drafting backups.
Mm-hmm.
So what about you? How many leagues are you in?
So last year I was in 2. I said this year I'm only doing 1, and now I'm in 3. So I added 1 instead of dropped 1.
Dropped 1. You forgot to carry the 1 when you did that math in your head.
I did.
Yeah, it sucks.
So I'll read you I have 3 teams. I have 2 okay teams, and then I have 1 team that I actually think is going to be really good. So the team, I'll start with I have 2 teams that both could be good and 1 team that's really average. But my team that's average doesn't have a buy-in, so I'm okay with that. So I'll read you my starting lineup for my team that's kind of whatever. So I have Matt Stafford as my quarterback, Josh Jacobs, running back, Aaron Jones, running back, Adam Thielen, receiver, A.J. Brown, receiver, T.J. Hawkinson, tight end, Jonathan Taylor, running back, Marquise Brown, receiver, Robbie Gould, kicker, Bills, defense special teams. And I will say this, I got Justin Fields in every league in like the 14th or 15th round.
Damn.
So if he comes in and kills it, that's the steal of the draft.
Oh, yeah.
In every league. But I need him to play by week 9 because that is Russell Wilson's bye week, and he's my quarterback in my other 2 leagues.
Oh.
The Rams bye week isn't until 11. But if Fields comes in and outperforms Stafford from a fantasy standpoint, then I'll just start playing him.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think Fields will come in at halftime of the Rams game.
That's
And
funny.
I think he'll start from then. That's my guess.
So when you were drafting, because this is the first year I have not done 3 leagues.
Mm-hmm.
Do you try and draft the same players in all 3 leagues?
Not necessarily. It just depends who's on the board. But because my leagues are half PPR, I tend to go for running backs first. If it was PPR, I would go receiver first. So PPR stands for points per reception. So you would get like a point for each catch. And then that kind of makes receivers more valuable. In a half PPR, you're going to have like the receiving running backs are going to be the best because they're going to get a lot of handoffs, but they're also going to get some catches. So if you get a running back that puts up a lot of points, but he also has like 6 catches, that extra 3 points a lot of times can make or break a game.
Yep.
So that's kind of where I'm at. And then my other leagues, it's like, sometimes similar receivers. I don't want to take up too much time just reading my fucking fantasy teams on here. But the other 2 leagues, I got Russell Wilson at quarterback, and I was mostly just really pumped to have Fields as my backup on every team too.
Yeah. Well, so, and like, because I'm actually glad I'm only in 1 league this year, but I would always take two leagues where I would draft very similarly to each other,
Mm-hmm.
because in 3 leagues you either have them or you're playing against them.
Yeah.
And like, it's hard to root for someone that you're playing against, even if you have them on your team. You're like, have a good enough game to get me some points, but not too good of a game because
I
I'm playing
know.
against you. But then I'd take one league where it was kind of like, I'm either going to get first place or last place.
Yeah.
And this where I'm like, not necessarily sleeper picks, but like guys that are either going to be the guy or they're going to be the third stringer.
Yeah. It's the worst when you have a guy that's on your team in one league and then you're playing against him in another league and you're like, I don't know what to think.
Uh-huh.
That's when I'm like, I kind of hope he sucks and then all my other guys just take off.
Yes.
Because that's the only way I'm winning.
Right. So I don't know. I'm curious because one league is like, okay, I have nothing else. Because I would always be doing really well in one league and averaging two.
Yeah.
And then I just put all my focus into the one.
Yep.
So
It's kind of how that goes.
question 1. What's worse? Eating quality food but not hitting your macros, or eating lower quality food but hitting your macros?
So I feel like these questions are kind of funny because you don't have to choose one or the other. But you might be in some situations where you do have to, right? Like, you know, you might be able to hit your macros a little bit easier with more processed foods. Like, here's an example at an airport. What's going to be easier to hit your macros? Quote unquote, like healthy meal compared to maybe a protein bar and like some, you know, salted like nuts or almonds, whatever. And then like a protein shake or something like that. You're going to get more protein from fewer calories than if you were to go and get like, dude, even a salad. There's a lot of salads at airports that are like 1,500 calories.
Mm-hmm.
Where you'd say, well, that's probably a better choice, but it's way higher in calories. So for one of them to be worse than the other would have to depend on what's your goal, right? Because we could look at it from a micro level and we could say that it depends on the meal, right? What the goal of that meal is. Maybe you have family in town and the goal of that meal is to spend time with family and enjoy the social and cultural values of food. Or maybe the goal of that meal is to hit your macros so that you can influence your body composition. And the thing is with a lot of, studies on food quality, a lot of the negative health outcomes from ultra processed foods also comes from the weight gain that is accustomed with that. So a lot of people who are more overweight or obese, they're going to have more negative health outcomes than people who are more fit who might be eating those foods as well. And like anything, the dose is in the poison. But I don't know, because like when you look at helping clients make a change in their nutrition, you can take two approaches. And it almost always depends on the person. So if I have someone that always eats like shit and they're like, oh, well, I don't want to stop eating chips with my meals. I love having my potato chips with my meals. I've had this before. And I go, okay, well, we don't have to do that, but we're going to have a calorie goal and a protein goal. And over time, he's like, hey, I'm making progress. I'm hitting my macros, but I've noticed that like I've been really hungry lately. And I was like, okay, well, what do you think you can do to help improve that? And he's like, well, it might make sense to, cut the potato chips at least out of like lunch and maybe keep them with dinner and maybe replace those chips at lunch with vegetables. So I think that's a great idea. So like, even though he was eating worse quality food at first, it's kind of addition by subtraction, right? I guess subtraction by addition, whatever. Who gives a fuck? By focusing more on, I'm trying to hit this protein target and also stay within my calories, you can't afford to eat as many, calorie dense foods. And so over time, by controlling calories, by controlling the quantity of food, you end up wanting to increase the quality of food because you want to stay full and you want to feel good because you feel like shit when you eat ultra processed food all the time. And some people might do better with saying like, hey, I just want to feel better at first. And in that case, it's okay, let's look into getting mostly whole natural foods from your diet and at least just, maybe dialing back on some of the processed foods, or more so like ultra processed foods, because everything is processed to an extent. And so maybe after getting their quality of food in check, and they're like, okay, I feel good, I feel better, my workouts are going well, but I kind of want to lose more weight. And then I'd be like, okay, well, let's start tracking your calorie intake. And I think both methods are viable. They both work. But I think instead of asking what's worse, to do this or that, be like, I mean, maybe try to find some middle ground there and like focus on quality and quantity. But don't get obsessed with either one, because you can get orthorexia, or develop orthorexia, which is an eating disorder. If you're hyper focused and you only see calories when you look at food, you like you're thinking of the macros in it and trying to calculate it in your head. Or you could look at foods that maybe are more processed and you're like, oh, I can't have that. And you see that food is bad. And then you see food is good or bad. And this black and white thinking can also lead to eating disorders. So like over focusing on one or the other isn't good. Like a lot of people say counting calories does this and forces you to have eating disorders. And then there's other people that say, oh, well, focusing too much on clean foods can also do that. Like it all can. It all depends on your approach. It depends on the intention. But I mean, they're both bad, like both bad options. But if I had to pick one, I would say eating lower quality food and still hitting your macros is probably better than eating higher quality food and overeating way too much. Because you could also have higher quality food, but you're not eating nearly enough, and then you can lose a lot of muscle, which could lead to osteoporosis, and more likely to develop like arthritis, type 2 diabetes, things like that when you're losing muscle. And if you're gaining too much fat, you're also more at risk for type 2 diabetes. You're going to have worse joints, things like that. So maintaining weight and body composition has a ton of huge impacts on health. And assuming you were eating lower quality food most of the time, you could probably supplement for some of the things that you're missing. Are these supplements going to be as bioavailable and as easily digested as whole natural foods? Probably not. But I think to me, that would be a better option than eating healthy foods, but eating way too much or way too little.
And here we go. I'm just going to play devil's advocate, because I don't want someone to listen to this and be like, oh, Connor said that I can eat lower quality foods and not hit my macros and I'm going to be fine.
I will say this. If that's what someone got out of what I just said,
the fucking internet trolls.
Oh, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to take the approach of higher quality food and not hitting your macros.
But is that actually what you believe, or are you just saying that?
I'm torn, which is why I'm saying it.
I think both options suck.
Right. Again, why does it have to be black or white?
Yeah.
Find a combination.
Maybe if it's for one meal, then it's like, depends where you're at.
Right. If you're strictly going for aesthetics, absolutely. Lower quality, but hitting your macros. I know a ton of bodybuilders that keep donuts in their diet going into their prep week.
Yeah.
Like, you can do it. They're still in a calorie deficit. They're still losing weight.
But
their
also,
performance.
what's the rest of their day of eating
right.
like, though, right?
Right.
So it depends. Are we talking like one meal or all the time?
Or all
like
the time.
That's why it's kind of a tough question to answer without that context.
Right. I just look at higher quality foods as, good luck overeating, just because the majority of people eat ultra processed foods. So by switching to whole natural foods of like, don't worry about the calories, but make sure you're getting good quality food, you will get more micronutrients. You won't have to supplement with stuff, because you could tell someone to supplement and yeah, it might work for a month, but I even noticed this to this day. I've been supplementing with like fish oil, vitamin D, vitamin E, and I feel like there's one other thing, but I haven't fucking taken anything in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because it is a pain in the ass. I try and do it first thing in the morning, but that's always not the first thing that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about getting ready for work, and like taking those supplements isn't necessarily happening every single day. But if you focus on higher quality foods, you will be getting more of those micronutrients. And I'm not going to say it's impossible, because I still overeat on whole natural foods, but it's a lot harder. Most people, when they get full, they don't want to eat. So good luck over consuming while you're eating whole natural foods. Again, it's not black and white.
Yeah.
Think of it as a Venn diagram. Go somewhere right in that middle aspect of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you could also argue that if someone eats a lot of like avocado, and then if they eat maybe a lot of like mango or apples or oranges, bananas, like more higher calorie nutrient dense foods, or I'd say higher calorie whole natural foods, because while they're kind of nutrient dense and calorie dense, with those like more higher sugar fruits and avocado being pretty fucking high calorie too. That's really depressing. But
Yeah.
those things can still be high calorie as well. Or if you're eating like a lot of, let's say you're eating a lot of avocado and fruit and then a lot of steak, where steak is less of a leaner meat than, other animal protein sources. So you could very well overeat on, clean foods. I've had a lot of clients doing that. Are you going to be fat? No, you're probably still going to be healthy. You'll probably still be in a healthy body weight range, but you can still have a little bit more fat on you than you'd like doing that.
I would say if someone is struggling with overeating low quality foods, pick one thing to focus on.
Yeah.
Either calorie control or switching to higher quality foods. See which one works for you, and then you can start adding in the other one.
Yep.
Where if you try and do both of them, you're gonna survive for a month. It's gonna be great, but then you're going to go back to your old eating habits.
Yeah.
Pick either calorie control or don't worry about the calories or macros and just start eating more whole natural foods. See which one works better for you, which one your body agrees with, and then you can start fine tuning it.
Yeah. The reason I've always found quantity first to be a little bit easier is because then you know what things you need to take out.
Yes.
And or which things you need to maybe add in. And I've also found like if you don't have to change anything right away and all you have to do is track and see what you're eating, you like the only change is, I have to take some time to track. But if you're not making any changes, that is pretty easy. You're not going to have very much resistance. But if you're like trying to change everything, if you're eating a lot of processed foods and you're going from like everything just pre-made meals and then going to preparing everything and buying it fresh and all that, like that's a lot more work, a lot more time invested. So I can see why that could be a little bit more difficult for a lot of people. But either way, there's no black or white, answer to improving your nutrition. It's always contextual, but start with improving the quality or quantity and then kind of go from there. And I would say always aim for the lowest hanging fruit, the change that's going to be the easiest for you to make, because otherwise it can feel really overwhelming. Question 2. What is a polite way to explain to female clients that building muscle is not going to make them look like bodybuilders in a month? I honestly thought we were behind this, but I've heard this 5 times just last week.
I think this is fucking hilarious. And I do use myself as an example when I am talking to female clients about the benefits of resistance training, eating enough protein, and essentially doing what bodybuilders do to put on muscle. I have been doing this for 12 years. If it was as easy as, breathe around some heavy weights and eat some chicken, you would see a lot more people looking like bodybuilders. Take a look in the gym. If it was that easy, men can build muscle a lot easier than women can. If it was that easy, you would see a lot of guys walking around super buff, super bulky, super strong, and you don't. The analogy that I always like to use with this, and you actually were the one that told me, if you're running late and you're going to the grocery store and you start speeding, do you automatically think you're going to become a NASCAR driver? Like you're going to become Danica Patrick? No. It's one of those things that like you need to speed up a little bit. You're going to go do it. You're not going to become a professional NASCAR driver because you're going 15 miles over the speed limit. Same thing with resistance training. And actually, I think I mentioned this on the last podcast. I have my first female client that there was no resistance with it. She just bought into it. She's like, I need to lose weight. Tell me what I need to do. She is now she's squatting just over 1.25 of her body weight for 8 reps. She's almost deadlifting twice her body weight, and she's almost bench pressing her body weight. And she is the smallest she has ever been in her entire life. And she's also the strongest she's ever been in her entire life. Men and women build muscle differently. And it's one of those things, you almost kind of have to do it to believe it, because it does not happen overnight. And that's what I tell all my female clients is, listen, let's start building some muscle. And once we get to a point where you look in the mirror and you're like, I have as much muscle mass as I want, then you maintain that. It's so much easier to maintain muscle than it is to always chasing the, oh, I need to burn, I need to lose some body fat. You know, I'm not comfortable in my skin. Building muscle mass solves 99% of a lot of people's issues.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do want to clarify something you said for the people that are listening when you said that men and women build muscle differently. When Zach's saying that, what he's referring to is most women have a harder time building muscle in their upper body, and an easier time building muscle in their legs. And for guys, it tends to be inverted. So easier to build muscle in the upper body and more difficult to build muscle in their legs. And because women tend to be better at training lower body than upper body and vice versa for guys, we tend to gravitate towards things we're good at. So that's why women tend to also enjoy training legs more than men, but also women have a higher pain tolerance in their lower body, so that also makes sense. But in terms of being able to gain muscle, women can actually gain muscle at even regardless of testosterone levels. They can still build muscle at a similar rate as men. The difference is women have a lower starting point with muscle mass, and also necessarily a higher body fat percentage. They have to have a higher body fat percentage to regulate reproductive hormones. So here's the thing. Like, I agree with everything you said, but if we're talking about a polite way to explain to female clients, here's the thing that's difficult is you don't want to come off as, what people now would say mansplaining, right? Even though I think the concept of it when it's actually just described well makes sense when people, I don't know, I don't want to get into that, but whatever.
Yeah.
You want to come off as understanding and make sure that you do understand where they're coming from. Because even though we know that that's a crock of shit, right, and that women should be strength training, in their mind, they are convinced that they're going to look like a bodybuilder and get quote unquote bulky if they lift heavy weights, right? Or even just lifting weights in general. So what I like to do is ask them, I go, okay, so you don't want to look bulky. So from everything that you've said, this is kind of like what I understand. If you wear like a backless dress, you want to be able to see like some tone, some definition, right? But you don't want to look like you're just fucking jacked. You want to look lean. You want to look like you work out, but you don't want to be super muscular. Maybe you want a little bit of separation between like the shoulder and the arm so you can kind of see that difference. Not like big arms, but you just want to see the shoulder separate from the arm. Maybe if you're wearing heels, you want to see a little bit of definition in the calf. You don't want your calf to be huge, but you just want to see a little definition there. Maybe see the hamstring and glute kind of separation there too. So you have the legs look a little bit leaner. I'd say, is that kind of the look you're going for? Like, would that be okay? And I was like, yeah, that'd be awesome. I go, okay, perfect. Well, that's actually what resistance training does. It helps you build that muscle so that you look leaner at a little bit higher body fat percentage. And we'll still do cardio, but most of the reason we're doing cardio is for the health benefits, cardiovascular health, your heart health. And then we're doing strength training for most of the body composition, and then the nutrition will help with that. So, because I could explain all the science behind it and why, strength training, like why it's not going to make you bulky and all this stuff. Like, fuck, I've been trying to get bulky and it's hard,
Yeah.
right? So you're not going to do it on accident. But like me telling them that's probably not going to change their mind, right? So like they don't need to know how the clock works. They just need to know that it works, right? You go buy a watch. You're not going to ask them, how do you know and make sure that this is on the right time? You just ask them, hey, is this the right time? And then, okay, how do I fix it to make sure it's the right time? You don't need to know how all the little pieces in the watch work together. You just need to know it works. Right. So if they just know that it works, then they're fine with that. And so that's what I do. And there's even times actually now where if Jessie's in the gym, she works at the same gym as we do, I'll ask them, I'll say, how much do you think that girl weighs? And Jessie's 5'3", she's pretty lean, but they'll be like 100 pounds. She's close to 120. And they're always like, oh my God, are you serious? Yeah, that's what strength training does. You weigh more because you have more muscle and it's more dense. So like, it's funny when people say muscle weighs more than fat. Like, no, if you got a pound of fat and a pound of muscle, they both weigh a pound.
Yep.
But the pound of muscle looks smaller because it's more dense. So I tell them that gives you a more like a dense look. Like, you know, maybe your arms are a similar size. They're going to be smaller, right? But they're going to look smaller because they're tighter and they're leaner. And that's what's going to get them to buy in, because this thought is emotional. So you have to meet them with emotion. And that comes from like painting the picture of what they're going to look like through the strength training, versus they have this emotional belief and thought, and then you combat it with logic. You can't out logic emotion.
Right.
So what I do is I take that from an emotional standpoint and I meet them where they're at. And then later on, as they start to gain trust in you, you get to know them, they like you, and they trust what you're going to tell them. Then you can explain to them a little bit more about, hey, this is why you're not getting bulky. This is why you're getting lean. And you being able to explain that and articulate that in a way that resonates with them will probably get them to want to share that with their friends. And you might be able to get, like, as a byproduct of you helping this woman, she might help a lot of her friends who are scared to lift weights. And now you might have just impacted 5 other lives that you don't know about and you have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's awesome.
Well, so when I've used Jessie, I can't even tell you how many times, especially during assessments of like, yeah, how much do you think she weighs? I have yet to have someone guess over 110 pounds.
Yeah. Don't ever use my girlfriend again, by the way.
She's my girlfriend too.
It's fine.
But no, I've had women that I have not trained, but I have explained to them what resistance training will do to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll see them at the bars and they're like, listen, I know we never trained together, but what you taught me about the benefits of resistance training, like, you've changed my life forever. And to me, that's still a successful client,
Mm-hmm.
even though I've never trained them, because, you know, a lot of these girls do only group fitness classes and a shit ton of cardio, or they don't touch anything less than 20 reps for the resistance training.
Yep.
Once they see that change, then they tell their friends, and their friends already trust them.
Yep.
So then their friends end up taking that advice too.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, these girls didn't pay me a fucking dime. But
Yeah.
the fact that I was able to have that impact on them and transform their lives and their friends' lives, like, you can't put a price on that.